Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show. My apologies for the slight delay. Technology always gets the better of you. Alan Ruff and Darren Jackson are with me, hopefully with a bit of luck. If he can get rid of his Nokia 3010 Roughie, then Hugh McDonald might join us as well, because it's one of those days, Roughie. I'm calling for an investigation because I feel as if something's happened, definitely, Roughie, that's trying to take the technology and cause us all sorts of problems. But nevertheless, good to see you guys. Hope you're in fine fettle. What's on the show? Well, listen, we've got an SPFL open letter, which has just dropped in the last half hour. I'm going to try and quickly sum that up as well, as quickly as I can for you. And then we've got lots to talk about, including a one-to-one with Rangers coach Kevin Thompson, of course, a former Rangers player, former Hibs player, and some great insight into his career and what he'd like to do coming up. So that's well worth listening to as well. As far as the messages, you can indeed give us your thoughts on Facebook. You can like, share, and follow us on Facebook. And if you're on YouTube, then you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's as simple as that. So let me cut to the chase, guys, because as ever, it's an ever-changing picture in Scottish football. And if you can forgive me trying to speed read this, guys, to get the message out to each and every one of the Scottish football fans wondering what's happening. The SPFL has an open letter to all 42 clubs. Following the SPFL Director's written resolution, which was passed with a large majority of clubs in the SPFL, we now need reconciliation and contrition from all parties if we are to safeguard the future of Scottish football. Huge challenges for the new season to get it up and running and the safety of everyone involved. I'm trying to quickly edit this down for you. The Joint Response Groups Task Force has got working groups. We're bringing our knowledge together and our resources together for the greater good. As SPFL directors, we have volunteered our time freely in uniquely difficult and challenging circumstances. We participated on a fully functional SPFL board, which we believe has operated in an entirely fair and even-handed manner. We have each put our own self-interest behind us to do what is best for Scottish football, but have had to endure our professionalism and our integrity, as well as our compliance with our legal duties to the company, being openly called into question in recent weeks. And this is, of course, primarily by Rangers. All of the SPFL board meetings have been conducted in a fair and even manner, with everyone being able to voice their opinion and fully digest the many and varied issues that we have had to consider in forming our decision-making. In an attempt to reduce its costs, ultimately for the benefit of the 42 clubs, the SPFL furloughed several staff and a number of the executives voluntarily took salary cuts. As a result, only an executive team of the 5 remain to administer and manage the ongoing business of the organisation, as well as planning for the end of the current season and for season 2020-21. Their workload has been extremely onerous, managing a huge number of additional tasks, liaising with the SFA, the medical officers, the government, the UEFA, other league bodies, our commercial partners and our clubs. As a consequence, has everything been done perfectly, and has it always been fully communicated? Of course it has not, and this is a point we've already raised to ensure the organisation is future-proofed for subsequent boards after we stand down. Indeed, at our request, the SPFL chairman will be issuing a comprehensive Q&A document within the week addressing many of the claims or questions that have been put out into the public domain. We trust that this will give you, the members whom we've been appointed to represent, the same high level of comfort each of us has in the actions of the SPFL executive team. And here's the crucial part coming, guys. We are unaware of any impropriety or any disregard for appropriate qualities of corporate governance. If Rangers Football Club has a dossier of evidence which shows anything to the contrary, then we would repeat the call for it to be brought forward immediately, because we, as club representative directors, have a clear duty to interrogate any allegations of misconduct or the like which it contains. The SPFL board is dealing with fast-moving sets of circumstances with a skeleton staff trying hard to prioritise matters. It's an unenviable job, and we are sure the many fair-minded people in Scottish football fully understand this. all of the executive team retain our full support and admiration. Further recrimination and division will only decrease our chances of playing football matches in Scotland any time soon. So it goes on to say that obviously there's going to be a general meeting on May 12th because that was requested by Rangers, Hearts and Stranraer. Obviously 75% of the clubs in the Championship, the Premiership and League One and League Two will have to vote that through for an independent investigation. This is what Rangers, Hearts and Stranraer have appealed for. But if the resolution fails to gain the support of enough members and the requisitioners nonetheless continue on their current course, the cost to our game will be incalculable. So basically what they're saying is, if you get the majority, fine, there'll be an independent investigation. If you don't, and you continue to go through questioning the credibility and, of course, the integrity of the executive board, it will basically, Roughie, be to the detriment of the Scottish game. So they've laid it on the line. They don't believe there's any impropriety, but they're willing to go on May 12th and see if everybody else thinks there may well be.
Yeah, well, we'll just have to wait and see if the May 12th, how the votes go on that one. Obviously, they're getting a wee heads up by putting out their side of the story. If there's going to be a question and answer, I'm sure a lot of the clubs will look at this question and answer and decide whether the questions and the answers back up, and then we'll get to the vote and we'll see where we go from there. It's just, again, Peter, and then quite rightly so. I mean, they're just not covering their own tracks, but they're just letting everybody know that the procedures that they went through were the right procedures. But obviously we have another 3 people who say it isn't the right procedure, and we want that independent meeting. So we'll have to see whether the club's back, this. I know you said they need this certain percentage of what's going to go out there. It'll be interesting. I don't know if the question and answer might help people on the voting side. Do you know what I mean? If the question and answer goes out there, does that mean some of the clubs who might be saying, yeah, I want it, might look at it and go, oh, well, maybe it's not as bad as what it is, and we won't. So maybe they're just putting this out here, to put a wee bit of muddle in the water with the voting, depending what the question and the answers are.
No, it's fairly straightforward to me, Roughie. Quite simply, they're saying if you've got evidence, produce it, then let everybody vote on it. It's as simple as that. If Rangers have evidence that there's impropriety, whether it be through Neil Doncaster, Rod McKenzie, Murdo McLennan, then get it out there. Get it out there and let the clubs vote on it. That's what they want. They want an independent investigation. If you want another independent investigation that is out with the Deloitte investigation, which was conducted on behalf of the SPFL, then get your evidence out there and let everybody have a vote on it, Darren. It's as simple as that for me.
Peter, I think it has been the case for the last couple of weeks that Rangers have had. What they say is that their evidence that there's wrongdoing. So I don't see why we've waited. We don't have time. We need to move things on in all aspects, reconstruction, but we need to get this sorted and out the way. And if they've got it, listen, we're all for, if there's any wrongdoing, we're all for people getting hammered and sorting things out. But just hand it over, let's get on with it, and let's try and get Scottish football, up and running again.
Yeah, only in our country, Roughie, and I would say this, only in our country could we be watching people dying, businesses going out of business, folding completely, and a situation where Scottish football is on its knees and clubs will fold. Only our country has a situation where they want to take the governing body to task and fight in a situation like this. I don't deny Rangers the right to actually question if there has been impropriety. That's democracy. But if you're going to do it, get the evidence out there for everybody to vote on it instead of them voting blindly.
Yeah, and even though when the evidence is out there, if anybody is found guilty of doing something, it's not going to enhance the game here. All it's going to do is remove 2 people from office and another 2 people have come in. And then we still have to move on and make all the decisions that we've got to make. So you're right. It seems quite not the biggest thing in the world when there's other things going on for the future of the game. And certainly the longer it drags on, the worse it's going to be.
I'm going to read out something here to you guys, and it's not necessarily an indication of the majority of Rangers fans, but I think it's an indication of the mindset of some. Chris Hewitt has just posted on YouTube. Rangers are quite right. Other clubs watched us suffer. Now it's our turn. A bit of karma is sweet. And I genuinely feel there are some people who are operating with that mindset, Darren, which is quite simply Rangers put down for their own misdemeanours down to the bottom league in Scottish football. And some people think, let's get them back. Now, if there's impropriety, and this is the difference, Darren, if there is any wrongdoing, nobody's denying Rangers the right. Nobody is saying Rangers are wrong in saying we want an investigation because we have evidence of impropriety. If that's there, get on with it. Get it out there and let's get this to an end and finish it.
Peter, 100%. And we've spoken about it, that if they have evidence, show everybody. Let us see the evidence to prove that they're right and that there has been something going on underhanded. And then the Rangers fans can say, there you go, we told you so. But until then, it's just, as you said, in our country, that's just the way it is. Karma. Maybe supporters are wanting other teams to go out of business. It's actually sad. And I'm not sad what's just come in, but it's sad for Scottish football, and it's sad for people looking in and hearing things like that.
Well, there's a heck of a lot of things going on, Roughie, and statements coming out right, left and centre over the last couple of hours. This is a day for statements, and it's quite simply UEFA have asked the European leagues to decide by the 25th of May. All league associations have to submit their plans by then. Now, it's not set in stone because I'm sure somebody will actually submit their plans after the 25th and say that there's a legal document that says they don't need to go on the 25th of May because knowing what's happened over the last couple of months, that's what happens. But nevertheless, 25th of May is when league associations are being asked, what are you going to do with your league? Now, the Dutch, as we know, have abandoned theirs. The French league today have cancelled League One and League Two. We are awaiting their decision on title winners and relegation. And then UEFA themselves, Roughie, will decide if people put forward who their champions are and who's going to be relegated. Then obviously UEFA will debate that, look at it, and if there's any that throw up a real anomaly, they will say, well, we can't have them as representatives of your country. That would be a country suggesting somebody absolutely insane as the champions, but I can't see that happening. But nevertheless, they're going to have to make a call, and I get the feeling, Roughie, the Scottish Premier League is waiting to see if the English Premiership is going to be able to kick a ball behind closed doors. I think they're waiting now to see.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think there's a momentum out there in the bigger clubs, the likes of Aberdeen, Hibs. They want to see the season out. And you're right, they're just waiting on the bigger leagues making a decision. And then I think we spoke about it yesterday. You have to. I think it's all down to the people and the health that will decide how we do it, and then you have to structure it. How you're going to do it. We know that England have got a lot more money than us, and they can do a lot bigger things to curtail anything getting worse. So it'll be interesting. It's okay saying, yeah, we want to play it out, but show us your plans. How you're going to play it out. But I think we're a long way off of that. So I think they'll have to come together and make some kind of decision.
Roughie, I think you're right. I think you're right, but you're not just Aberdeen and Hibs. I think everybody wants to see the season out. Now, can we afford it? I'm looking in England. In England, they're saying they want to start by June the 12th or something like that. Now, if England can do it and we can afford it, can we not wait to see, can we finish our season? Now, it looks quite impossible, but if they can wait, do we have the money, Peter? Would it be down to all finance?
Well, believe me when I say this to you, and I'm not being glib about this, but every time we've been on this programme, we have tried to give a broader view than just some people suggest, and I would suggest people who are biased towards their clubs. We have tried to give a broader view based on what governments are saying, what medical people are saying about the bigger picture, about people in each specific country. and where they are on this curve of this virus. So that's why we've offered our opinion. And the opinion is basically, and I think Barry touched on it the other day there, which was only right and proper that he mentioned it. Could you live with yourself if you are infected, you infect a player in a behind closed doors game, or an individual has it, infects the player who's played in a game, who goes back to his family, and someone gets it and loses their life? What are the financial implications from that whole situation? Can you definitively say that people are 100% safe when the curve is not flattened sufficiently that people are allowed to go out? Can you play a game behind closed doors and tell every family member that you're going to be safe and that somebody can go back home after playing a game with maybe only 400 people in the stadium, that you are safe and that you are not going to catch this disease, which in some cases, and I can't quantify the percentage on a daily basis, lose their life? That, for me, Roughie, is the be-all and end-all here. The First Minister has said it. It's unlikely that we'll be able to play behind closed doors, but it's not impossible, but it's highly unlikely. That's her words, not mine.
Yeah, I think where we're all sitting just now, it looks highly unlikely. There's still deaths too much for me, and the hospitals are under so much stress. But we all know that there will be people be putting pressure on to. I mean, I was listening to Nicola Sturgeon today. There are people now asking questions. When are you going to relax this shutdown? When are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? The questions are now being asked, and people are now being put under pressure to make decisions for people. You know, obviously everybody's got different circumstances. For me, it's all about the vaccine, and it's all about, you know, the doctors and the professors and everything telling us 100% that all the things that you've just said there can't happen. And if they can't happen, fair enough, you've got to go along with it. But certainly the way things are just now, I don't think anybody can put a date on anything.
Well, listen, now we have the EGM on May 12th. The clubs will have a chance to actually look and hopefully assess clear evidence that Rangers hopefully will submit, which shows wrongdoing on the part of individuals in the SPFL, on the board, whether it be the chief executive, whether it be the lawyer, whatever. If that evidence is sufficient and it proves to be the case that there was wrongdoing, then we have to get through that due process. I would also say that I understand where the SPFL are coming from on the basis that when you take into consideration the current climate, should we be in a situation where we are in this mess, suddenly looking for investigations when we should be looking for a way out for Scottish football? Well, we have to deal with what we're dealing with, whether we like it or not. Because what I don't want to do on this programme is get to a situation where everybody denies Rangers the right to question something. I think if they think they've got evidence, then they have every right to put it forward. Whether we think it's a good thing or a bad thing because of where we are in the world at the moment, you know, that's for another day. Stuart Campbell says, do you think if Rangers were 13 points clear, do you think Rangers would have been made champions? Do you think it would just be the same as it is now, a bad mess? Well, Stuart, I don't think anybody is suddenly suggesting just because it's Celtic, Darren. If Rangers are 13 points clear and on the same form as Celtic, nobody cares. If you're going to be the champions, it's because the SPFL can't kick another ball and null and void's not on the table. Nobody cares whether it's Rangers, Celtic or Hearts. If they're up there and they're 13 points clear and they have to be called champions, they have to be called champions. Don't be so narrow-minded and stupid over being biased or someone having an agenda or a conspiracy theory. Has the world gone completely nuts? Or this country, in fact? Or this poisonous west of Scotland, damn?
Probably this country, Peter, yeah. And because I've probably played for Celtic, I'm going for Celtic. But if Rangers are 13 points clear and they call the league, Rangers have won the league. So it's not, we're trying to sit in a programme here and not be biased. You will occasionally get swayed towards your own team. But you have to be truthful and have an opinion on if they're going to call the league. That's not anybody's fault that Celtic are top of the league. Rangers had the chance, and we're talking Celtic and Rangers. There's other teams in this league that people forget about. But if they call the league, you just have to accept it, and it's not because I'm a Celtic player. Oh, Celtic should get the league. They're at the top of the league. That's why they should get it.
So, lots of people. William Little says, we have evidence of pure corruption and we will see it in court as this inquiry won't get the go-ahead. Well, obviously, Roughie, this is the other aspect of it, because quite simply, and I don't think William has any indication of what the evidence is. I think if they don't get the go-ahead, I think Rangers might actually contemplate taking it a stage further again, Roughie.
Peter, did it not say in the paper today that it was going to, for the investigation, it could cost the clubs 6 figures?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly why the SPFL has come out with this letter.
That's not a reason not to go, because if Rangers have evidence, you need to try and. But we're struggling for money just now, and it's going to cost the club 6 figures. So the other ones might not be happy about it. But as I say, if they've got real evidence and they're confident, well, let's go with it.
Well, the point here, Roughie, is quite simply, if you have to get to a situation where you're continuing with your belief that there's corruption, if you're not happy that you don't get the vote at the next stage at the EGM, if you then want to take it to a higher court and it costs everybody more money, then we go with it. If some clubs fold because we're in litigation that basically they can't survive, you have to go with it. That's the process.
Yeah, but I said the other day, Peter, we don't know what the evidence is, and if it was, something that's worthwhile looking at, and fair enough, we vote on it. But if there isn't anything there, Rangers are going to look almighty silly with this one. That if they're going to pursue this, and we'll have to know the facts first. It's difficult to comment on it until we know what they are. But if it comes out that they're very, very trivial matters, we've already had instances of lawyers coming in and saying, "Oh, that resolution's not getting passed because the wording's wrong." If it's something like that, everybody's going to go, "Oh, for goodness sake, there's something more important going on." So we have to wait and see what it is.
I'm not suggesting. I'm not taking you to task over this, Roughie, just because of the phrase you used. It's not about, oh, this is trivial matters. It's either hard evidence or it's not. It's as simple as that. Once the legal people look over it, Roughie, and they suggest, is this real evidence? Does it implicate people in wrongdoing or impropriety in the background of this vote and the way they've conducted their business? Does it suggest coercion? Does it suggest bullying? If all of that evidence stands up, then heads will roll. It's as simple as that. If it doesn't, then there's got to be repercussions the other way. There's got to be repercussions the other way on this, and I think it's not about Rangers looking silly. It's just that they're going to have to go the full hog here on this. And then I think what happens then is, if it doesn't stand up and if it's shot down at the EGM, if they take it a stage further and it's shot down in a legal process, whether it's a higher court out with Scottish football, if it doesn't stand up, I think, this is my observation, it will merely antagonise and increase the, displeasure at what Rangers have done. If Rangers are proved to be correct, then I think they are to be applauded for standing their ground if the evidence is there that proves wrongdoing. Because remember, Roughie, they're not doing something that's unprecedented. Celtic brought down Jim Farry for a similar situation of wrongdoing and slowing down the process of George Cadet's transfer. So it's not as if we haven't seen it before. So I think we've got to be very careful. If they've got the evidence, by all means, go through the process. It's painful, and as Darren points out there, Roughie, financially, it could ruin more clubs because we're infighting on something that other countries must just be looking at us and thinking, what a tin pot country this is, with people who are poisoned, who are kicking each other and hate each other. They're stupid. Scottish football is full of people infighting and just making us a laughing stock.
Yeah. Yeah. The number one thing that we all should be talking about is the league reconstruction, and this whole episode. Be interesting to see how the clubs do vote when it comes round, because you saying the clubs in the first and second division won't be wanting to come into any money financial burden, so they'll look at it for that aspect as well. So it's really all about what's in it, Peter, and I think we all are given a voice, and once we see it, and once we see what's in the articles.
For the benefit of people who are obviously sometimes only listen to sound bites and are not listening to the full context of the programme, we have read out a letter from the SPFL which has gone to all 42 clubs, and they've basically said Rangers have to produce the evidence. But they've got their EGM on the 12th of May because they get 3 clubs who obviously called for an EGM, which is part of the rules and the process. Una Brennan says if the Rangers evidence doesn't stand up, there has to be punishment. Well, I don't know if there is punishment for someone who just claims that there is wrongdoing on this, Darren. I think we just have to move on and take the financial pain. If Rangers evidence doesn't stand up, you can't suddenly hammer them for producing something that wasted everybody's time and money. All it does is it just makes people actually, it makes certain people, look at Rangers again in a negative light. I think there will be a lot of unrest. I don't want to use the word hatred because I think that is divisive and it's not a good word to use. But I think there will be people who will be unhappy about the way Rangers have conducted their business if this doesn't stand up.
I think you're 100% right. But they've given evidence that they think. I don't think they should be punished. They've got a letter that they're going to give to the clubs that they think there's wrongdoing. So they can't get punished for that because they actually think that. So I think it's if there's no wrongdoing, we just quickly need to move on, Peter. Not going to punish anyone. Just try and get the reconstruction. Try and get talks together. Try and sort out whether we're going to get to be able to finish the season, which, as you say, is very, very unlikely. But if not, let's try and be positive and look to the future and the reconstruction and the leagues next year. But I don't think they should be punished because Peter, they think their letter, they think they're right.
Peter, does that mean if Rangers, Hearts, and Stenhousemuir have asked for the AGM, does that mean that Hearts and Stranraer have seen the evidence to back it?
Well, Roughie, I wish I could say to you yes, but of all the newspapers and all the stuff that's I've been receiving and reading up on this, I don't know if they have seen the full evidence. Why would you highlight 3 clubs? Why would you highlight 2 other clubs just to see the evidence on this? And the nature of the SPFL, they're not exactly locked tight when it comes to keeping a secret, are they? So I'd be amazed if only suddenly they said, "Hey, here, Hearts, here, Stranraer, have a look at this." I just think this is one of those things where and believe me, I'm saying to you right now, if they've seen the evidence and they think time for an EGM, time for an independent investigation, then all well and good. But I think if 42 clubs are voting and 75% of them in the Premiership have to vote to give this the go-ahead, I think it would be in the proper thing for Rangers to do would be produce the evidence and then let everybody see what they're voting on here for an independent investigation, unless they have something else that they're going to suggest to us, which means they can't show it. But I don't know about that. But a lot of people...
And will it be the same as the Championship in the first and second division? We'll know who voted where?
Well, I can tell by the look on your face, Roughie, that you're being because I've been with you 8 years, I can tell your sneaky face, and that's your sneaky face. Let me tell you right now, they couldn't keep a secret themselves, by the way, Roughie. So for guys like us in the media and the press, that's brilliant because you always get a tale when somebody tells you. But in this case, there are 2 elements to it, and sadly, this one looks as if it's going to starve clubs of money because there's going to be a legal process here. And by the way, let's not kid ourselves. Rangers are involved in a number of legal challenges, which is draining the club of money as well. So if they feel that strongly about it, let's go for it. Let's see where the evidence is. Let's see where it takes us. Will they be happy if they don't get it May 12th? I would suggest to you no. Will they take it a stage further? On the evidence of the SPFL letter there, I would suggest they probably will go another level again. But it's not for us to say Rangers are wrong, Rangers are bang out of order, because they may well have something that they think will stand up in court. We shall see. As far as Darren Jackson's concerned, he mentioned there the restructure of the leagues. Well, that's another issue. And Clyde came out with a statement which basically, I think, shows their unrest at some of the League Two clubs who've suggested that they want a 14-14-14. I don't know if we can see that Clyde statement or not, but nevertheless, I think basically, yeah, this is, as a club, we're disappointed at the current position apparently taken by a collective of League Two clubs on the proposal of 3 leagues of 14 clubs, and we would hope this is not their final position. It's an approach that fails to meet the founding principles of the reconstruction group, that no club would be in a worse financial or sporting position due to the effects of COVID-19. It makes no sense to go through reconstruction that is, and again, I must apologise here because the writing on this is so difficult for me to read on the graphic that I will actually, I've got it here. It makes no sense to go through reconstruction that is aimed at protecting clubs from relegation from the Premiership and Championship, and at the same time consign 4 clubs in League One to that same fate. At a time when there is no on-field action, the reconstruction group has an opportunity to address the bigger issues, such as the pyramid structure, which we strongly believe requires review. And that statement comes off the back of Kelty, who've basically said, Darren, they have no faith really in the pyramid structure if they don't get an invite into this new professional league. But they have said they would openly waive any money that would be due to them in the first season in League Two if they were to come in, if people are saying, well, we're not voting a 14-10, 10-10, because it denies clubs a fairer share of the money from the new Sky deal. So they're willing to actually sacrifice money if they're allowed to come into the group.
Well, Peter, did I see that if it's 14-14-14, that the 2 clubs wouldn't get into the league? Is that right?
Yes, they won't get in, no.
Now, people will probably think that I'm being biased towards Barry, but there's guys at Brora, there's guys at Kelty, there's a lot of people at Brora and Kelty. I've put a lot of money, an awful lot of money, into trying to get their team promotion, and they've succeeded. So why are we not working on something like that to get the two teams promoted? You can't just turn around and say, like the lower leagues, they're fighting against it because they probably don't want to give out any more money because they need it. But as you say, he's willing to give up the money that they guys rightly deserve to get promoted because they've won their leagues, and that was their goal, and that was their aim at the start of probably when they took over. It's probably taken them 2 or 3 years to get here, and then you're just going to deny it, and you're going to die. It's not right.
It's not right. I agree with you. But by the way, Roughie, I think a great gesture by Kelty. It shows their desire and the ability to obviously take the hit if they didn't want to take any money in the first season. But I would suggest to you, why should they? You're either going to vote them in with Brora Rangers and give them the right from this meritocracy to join this new setup if they indeed do it. I would say this to you, Roughie. I'm going to obviously let you hear what the PFA have been saying about this just shortly. The players have obviously been involved in a poll from the Players' Union. But I would say this to you, Roughie, 14-10-10-10 or the 3 leagues of 14, the general feeling, I think, from the majority of clubs is that this is not a short term. It's got to be a long term proposal.
Yeah, that's a problem. It's going to arise as soon as you go to the SPFL. I think a lot of them just want it as a trial, a 1 year, and other people will have views to make it longer term. I think Barry hit it on the head yesterday, and I've said it all along, that these clubs, some of these clubs in Division 2, have seen how well Cove Rangers and how well Edinburgh City have done, and they've looked at it and saying, do we really want another two really good sort of a non-league teams coming in here and taking our money and getting promoted when we've been in this league for yonks and we can't get out of it, and these teams are coming in and going right up? I think there's a lot of self-preservation here in that one, and I really hope it doesn't go that way, and I hope that Brora and Kelty get where they should be. They come through the pyramid system, a pyramid system that was put in play by all these teams. You know, so you can't all of a sudden say, no, the pyramid system's not working now. You know, it just wouldn't be fair.
Peter, I saw Alan Maitland today talking about he's all for the reconstruction, but not just for a year, because it just looks as though we're trying to save Hearts. And I've said it on the show before, you've said it, we need to try and save a club like Hearts, but you can't do it for 1 year. That isn't fair to teams like Hamilton, say St Mirren, that are down there. You have to be realistic.
Yeah. Listen, I hold my hands up here. I make no bones about it. I'm not apologising for it in any capacity whatsoever. I think 4 or 5 weeks ago, when this whole thing started to really dawn on everybody what was happening, and they were calling for reconstruction, I basically said, and some people latched onto this, I basically said, we can't afford in this coronavirus world a situation where financially we lose a club like Hearts going down a division. I didn't want relegation. The minute I said save Hearts, people jumped on it as well. Lots of people have said we can't lose Hearts on the BBC, on Sky, on BT, and they've been absolutely slaughtered for it. So it's not just me. But I don't think, with the way the finances are and the difficulties that clubs are facing, I don't think we can get to a situation where suddenly, and it's not just about Hearts, but suddenly a big club like Hearts goes out and the league is struggling and big clubs are struggling. You know, we don't know the true picture of their financial situation right across the board, lots of clubs. So my suggestion was expand the league, don't have the relegation, save Partick Thistle, save the other clubs as well, don't give them the relegation. If you have to call the leagues, it's because the protocol of UEFA and the football associations in each country mean that you have to have representatives and no football's going to be played, then call them as champions. Not because anybody's been a Celtic fan or a Rangers fan or has an agenda or a conspiracy theory. We are reading up and listening to the comments coming from UEFA, the SPFL, the lot. So that was my thinking on it, Roughie. Have an expanded league. Don't let the clubs at the bottom suffer the pain. But suddenly, if it means bringing in a Kelty and a Brora Rangers a year earlier than we were planning, do it. Just do it.
Yeah, I think we've all said for day one, it's an unfortunate circumstance we're all in. I don't think anybody should be punished for it. I think that's for day one. We've all said that. You know, how can you be punished? And then you have to make the other decisions. Some of the decisions are easy and others about the champions. I mean, we keep going on, obviously, about the Rangers Celtic scenario, Dundee United. The Falkirk one, for me, I don't know what people for Falkirk are thinking. You know, that seems a hard case for me, and that's why I hope the league reconstruction helps the teams like Falkirk, you know, who have had a really good season, and also Cove as well. I mean, we can't just keep focusing on the SPFL. Cove and Edinburgh City have been fantastic all year. You know, why should they be punished as well? So, no,
yeah.
When you go.
The other thing I was going to say, Roughie, and it's just so that it doesn't run away with us on this programme, Gary McGowan says, so it's okay for Hamilton to go down, but not Hearts. No, Gary, you're missing the point. You have to listen in context. I'm asking you to clean your ears out and listen to what we're saying. Lots of clubs could fold. So whether it's Hearts or whether it's, you know, Hamilton Accies or Motherwell or St Johnstone or whatever, save them. We're talking about every club. It just so happens that Hearts are bottom of the table. Just stop them from going down. Thistle haven't won a game. They've played well in lots of games, according to Roughie, and then they've been pumped. So, at the end of the day, save Partick Thistle as well, because they're there. If it was another club that was at the bottom, if it was Falkirk, I'd say save them too. You have to listen to the broader argument here and not just think it's about saving Hearts. And the other one here is Rangers have never said they want null and void. Rangers want the games played out. Eddie Thompson. Eddie, you're right. Everybody wants the games played out, Darren. But if you can't play the games, there's nothing we can do.
No, there's nothing you can do. But going back to your point about Hearts, Peter. Now, I can be biased because I've been there and played there. They should be saved because they've got the third biggest stadium. They have a full house every week. We need as many fans going to our games as possible, and there's 18,000. And again, Roughie, I can go back to the Falkirk scenario because I live in Falkirk now. I go to the games. It's a wonderful club, and if they can get promotion, they will get 7,000-8,000 sellout every week. Fans want to go, and it is, as I say, it's a great club. But the Hearts one, Peter, I know you've banged on about it, and it's not because you're a Hearts. It's because it's for the good of Scottish football, and it's a massive club. And at this moment in time, we need a Hearts.
Yeah, you're right. Chrissy Dunnett says PLZ Soccer should change its name to the Celtic Show. Chrissy, your head's in the gutter. I don't know what you're talking about. You're talking complete and utter nonsense. Nobody's mentioned Celtic in the first 50 minutes of this show. So, Chrissy, you may as well go into a club channel where they just fly your flag and tell you your club's fantastic. This one isn't for you, Chrissy. This is a show about football. You need to go to somewhere where your club just says, we're brilliant, everybody's against us. I don't know what that club is, but you need to go there. Not here with us. We're trying to look at it and comment on some of the points which footballers, sensible people are looking at and saying, if you can't kick a ball, what are you going to do with the champions? What are you going to do with the relegation? Are we going to have reconstruction? And that's what we're trying to say here. And here, our reporter, Gabriel Antonazzi, is explaining what the PFA Players Union in Scotland is saying about it.
Scotland's footballers have unanimously backed league reconstruction after PFA Scotland surveyed nearly 700 players across the 4 leagues, with the findings set to be presented to the SPFL's working group on league reconstruction later this week. Almost 80% want reconstruction starting next season, and they want it to be permanent. Overall, 60% of them favour a 3-division system in a 14-14-14 team setup with 2 up and 2 down plus the playoffs. However, 40% would prefer 4 divisions, a 14-10-10-10 team breakdown with 1 up and 1 down plus the playoff format, taking up the Highland and Lowland League champions. Finally, 64% of players feel that they are not consulted enough by the governing bodies on issues which affect them, such as reconstruction. PFA Chairman Liam Craig of St Johnstone said it is vitally important that the players' voice is heard, whilst Fraser Wishart, the Chief Executive, said, "We hope the working group will take the players' views into consideration as their talks on league reconstruction continue."
Well, there's another battle, Darren. I mean, the players saying they're not being consulted on this. Do you build a structure and then give the players the more say on how that structure should be built? It's a real dilemma, that one. I wouldn't like to sort that one out, would you?
No, it's players have got to have their say, Peter, but it's people running the club that have the bigger say. Players will turn up and play as long as they're getting paid and they go out, train, play and all that, but it's out of their hands really. But listen, it is good to consult them. It is good for them to have a voice and an opinion, but we'll leave that really to the people who know.
Was that wee sweep?
Yeah.
No, I understand where Darren's coming from, Roughie, because and a player's mentality is, right, I'll just go and check the 4 digits on my cash line. Is the money in? Yeah, dancer. Yeah. You know, I don't know about you, but under the age of, 23, that's exactly what you're thinking. You know, I'm playing the game I love. I'm getting a wedge for it. Fantastic, you know?
Yeah. You can hear the players' views, but a player will just play whatever division he's in and whatever contract he's got. That's just the way they land. It'd be interesting to see if the clubs actually approach their supporters and ask their supporters what they would like, and then you could get some kind of influence when you go to these board meetings, what your fans want. and it might just give you a wee inkling of what they want to go in the years ahead.
Yeah, John Christie says, and believe me, by the way, we can absolutely take criticism, and I love it when people give us an absolute doing or leather us for something that was said that maybe is wrong. John Christie says, stop saying save Hearts, save the bottom team is probably what you should say. And John, you're 100% correct. That's exactly what I held my hands up to. I don't care who's bottom. Just don't get to a situation where they are relegated. And let's not forget the reason why we're saying the bottom team. We are saying the bottom team because at this point, the relegation, the financial implications of a club like Hearts, who could still get out of it because of the points total at the bottom end, who could still get out of it, Roughie. That's why we're saying the bottom team, because there's not a huge gap, could still get out of it. Now, I know people will quickly get on and say, hey, what about Rangers? They could still win the league. Possibly. But that's the call the SPFL has to make, Roughie. But I think it's even more dire for the teams at the bottom who don't have a 13-point gap, who don't have huge gaps, and who potentially could scrape themselves out of it, Roughie. Are we wrong in saying save the bottom club?
No, we're not. We're not, because I think we all know, we're all been at clubs where, when things look dire and there's maybe 6, 7, 8 games to go, you can pick up points. I mean, we, Partick Thistle last year, we looked down and out, but we went on a wee run of 5 or 6 games that got us out of the hole. And all the clubs, every club supporter at a club has probably been in a season like that. It's a difficult one to call, but the relegation one for me is a definite no-no. And have you told everybody that when the SPL make the decision who is going to win the league, it'll be a 4-hour show?
Oh, Roughie, the great thing is, I mean, honestly, I only wish, Roughie, you could see some of the messages coming up here are absolutely priceless. I have to say, the majority of people who watch your show are sensible fans. They love their club. I absolutely get it. They absolutely love their club, and they want to see what's best for them. And if there is wrongdoing, we try and be as impartial as we can to say, we don't know what evidence they have. But if there is wrongdoing, then by all means produce the evidence, and by all means take it through the process. But we also try and be impartial on calling the top and the bottom based on all the evidence we have. We've said from day one, since the coronavirus really took a hold in this country, you're not going to kick a ball again. It's not going to end this season. We've been absolutely on it. But we've had some great punters on with some really good points, some funny points as well. I mean, you get leathered, you can take it, Darren, but there are some people who are completely and utterly unhinged and live in a world where, do you remember that guy in Silence of the Lambs who was sitting downstairs in the cell?
Great movie.
Oh, they're on here.
Do you know what it is? It's gigs, and he comes out with scotoma. You see what you want to see.
Yes.
You hear what you want to hear. Now, we've sat here today and said, if Rangers have documents that show wrongdoing, show us, and then then we can move on, and the people who are going to be punished can be punished. We're not saying Rangers are wrong, but just give the evidence.
Absolutely. Listen, the other good thing about it, we always try and get as many footballers and managers and different people who love football on this programme. Kevin Thompson's coming up very shortly. I was chatting to Kevin about his career and, of course, what his ambitions are. He's a coach at Rangers, and he hopes to obviously go on and manage in later years. So don't miss that. It's well worth listening to Kevin as well. But I do feel, Roughie, and I know sometimes Maggie, your lovely wife, cooks the dinner so that you've only got an hour to chat here. But if you forgive me, there's a couple of wee things that I think we need to do before we get to Kevin Thompson. Is that okay, Roughie? Or is it your wine?
No, you're
wine
fine.
chilling?
No. There's an hour and a half lull before the food when I start here.
Brilliant. Darren, I don't know if has Jordan made the food yet? Are you okay to hang on here? We'll get so many other things.
No, I'm ready. I'm ready to cook it as soon as we're finished, Peter. I've got all sitting there ready to cook.
Magic. Una Brennan says, Roughie, I'm really looking forward to that 4-hour show. So am I. The only problem is we need to get a representative from every club on that day. I hope Barry doesn't actually take his flip flops and batter his broadband. I'll tell you one thing. It's Robbo has been in an interview and he said he would be a better Jambo's boss second time around. I read that, Roughie. I think Robbo would be a great Hearts boss. I've been touting him for years. So is Darren, because we used to all hang about together.
Yeah.
I do. I think Robbo's an absolutely fantastic coach. You see what the problems he's had up at Inverness, and they're still second in the league. Wonderful coach.
Yeah, great coach. Yeah. You agree with that, Roughie?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think he'll have matured for the first time he was there. He will be a better coach, there's no doubt about that. More experienced, and certainly with everything he did at Tynecastle, I'm sure that would go in his favour now.
Yeah. Joseph Curran says, is Alan looking for overtime? Joseph, Roughie's just been fantastic in the, we couldn't furlough you, Roughie, could we? you've got to stay with us. Roughie, if this ship's going down, we're going down together, aren't we?
Together,
yeah. We have been through so much with this company together. It defies belief. And you need a yin and a yang, Darren. I'm the one with the hot head, and Roughie, if the place was in fire, Roughie would be as calm as you like about it. He would not bother. Whereas I'd be going crazy. He's the calmest guy I've ever met. He never gets upset about things.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm a warrior.
Exactly. I'm a hothead. It's as simple as about that. Anyway, lots of people. Alex Kelly says, this is the highlight of the day for all fans. He does actually say something else, but I'm not actually going to say, Alec, but I like your banter. It's quite good fun from time to time, even though every now and then you come out with something crazy. Now, Roughie, here's a point. I think it's another big problem in the future, and the English Premier League are well aware of it, which is why they want to finish their league. The greedy people. It's not just greedy people in Scotland that have self-interest. It's greedy people in Europe, Roughie. Because I always, I'm not a Karl-Heinz Rummenigge fan, because he clearly wants the Champions League just to be an invite only for the really wealthy clubs. Juventus chief Andrea Agnelli is another one on my list. I'm putting him down in lists. He's another one who basically would prefer the Champions League to be a closed shop. And they were talking about it before this coronavirus. And I think it's actually scuppered a lot of their plans. That's come out today, that these people I think they're the ones that are the real threat to European football.
Yeah, I think they've been already muting, that we can give you other tournaments to play in. There was the Atlantic League, and then there was another league, and they must be going to these meetings and trying to discuss, where they looking after themselves, and everybody else will just be throwing the crumbs. And that's the way it is. And fortunately, I think is it Peter Lawlot's on one of the meetings, so he should be known.
Yeah, European Commission.
He should be in that committee and knowing and advising everybody, the feeling of where we're all going in that one. I wish I had to have brought that up.
Why did you mention his name? Because people are
just
when's the programme finishing, Peter? Is this the 4-hour one?
No.
This is the 4-hour. Why did you mention Peter Lawlor's name there? Because that just antagonises people.
I knew we had a representative on it, so.
That's another thing. And I don't know if you've ever, there's some people who watch this programme are under the age of 40. So I'm going to suggest to you right now, you only need to watch a little clip of it, right? But have you ever seen the Dad's Army programme where Pike, the Germans, are starting to put a list together of people who are out of order, and he goes, your name's on the list, and he goes, your name, and Captain Mannering, I think, shouts out, don't tell him your name, Pike. And I've just had somebody say, Peter's now making lists. Everybody's on it, Roughie. Have you got a list of people you wanna leather or get back?
No, I've just got a list. Not that kind of list. No, I don't. I don't have any kind of list like that.
Darren,
why did I say that?
Darren, you've definitely got a list like that.
Oh,
absolutely
God.
Brilliant. Anyway, apart from anything else, I'm enjoying this. There's been so many statements today, it defies belief. One of the things that I did actually pick up on, it was on the BBC website, was Sports Minister Joe Fitzpatrick will discuss behind closed doors sport on the 5th of May. Next week, he'll have a look at that and see whether there's going to be games. Listen, if I thought it was possible, Darren, and we could play behind closed doors, great. It's just not going to happen.
No, Peter, I've said today, if they're doing it in England, can we look at it up here? But we've said all along, the main priority is saving people, looking after the NHS, making sure everyone can be as healthy as possible. I think, okay, we've been in our house for a long time now, but I think it should stay for a little bit, and you can't open it up into 10 people, 15 people, because people will not take that. They'll just go mad. And especially if it's sun, they'll go to parks and there'll be 15, 20 people there, 15, 20 people there. We have to do everything we can to try and get to obviously the bottom of this, and try and, so there's not going to be no deaths, but as little as little as possible. We don't even go anywhere near anything else, football or that.
Yeah. Okay. A couple other things before we get to Kevin Thompson. It's well worth listening to Kevin. He's a great lad, and he certainly was a gifted player. Although I can't believe it. But Darren, you think sometimes, you know, how players think they're unlucky. Boy, Kevin Thompson was an unlucky boy with injuries.
His injuries, yeah, he was very talented. I mean, obviously, you look at Scott and the way Scott goes like a big pitch, and the two of them playing together, best pals. Kevin was definitely technically and very talented.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I see Henrik Larsson's been chatting to a few people. Says he would love to come back and be a manager in Scotland. That'll be interesting. I'd love to see him running out with a Hamilton Accies tracksuit on, Roughie. It's not a bad mate, it's a bad team. I mean, you got to start somewhere, Roughie. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, I thought he had his opportunity to come here a couple of years ago, and he wanted to try and get experience elsewhere, and it never worked for him. But no. I think the knowledge that he's got, you know, he might be able to hit it off somewhere. Yeah, and another one here, which I think is a worrying one. I don't really want to dwell on it too much, Darren. Roy McGregor, who is a man I have a lot of time for, the Ross County chairman, says 60% of Scottish Premiership players face unemployment in the summer. Certainly uncertainty. I really hope it's not as high a figure as that, although you wouldn't bet against the current climate.
I really hope. And I've got, Peter, I'm the same with you. I've got a lot of time for Roy McGregor. After my brain operation, my first game back was a game up in Ross County, and they gave me a plaque to commemorate my first game back. And he's an absolute top man. And every manager who manages up there speaks so highly of him. But in this one, I hope Roy's wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Roughie?
I'm not too sure about Dick Campbell and Derek Adams.
yeah. Maybe there's always somebody who doesn't like somebody, Roughie. It's as simple as that. You can, Darren, I don't think you should actually. That's the one thing that I take off Roughie. If somebody doesn't like you, there's nothing you can do to change their mind. You just have to live with it.
Hey, I've lived with it for years.
Exactly. That's why I appeal to you on that, because there's some people they don't like you. Anyway, apart from that, just before we get to Kevin Thompson, I'm sorry we didn't put the quiz question out today. We'll put it out tomorrow. We get so caught up in what was happening with the statements coming out, and we'll go back over it before we go. But one little sad note, and I don't know, possibly people over in Britain will not be privy to Michael Robinson's second career, but Michael Robinson's 61. He played for Liverpool and he had a wonderful season with them, and ended up winning the European Cup and had a league title as well. He was one of those players. I always kept an eye on him, Roughie, basically because, I don't know, some players you just look at and then you think, oh, they've gone on to become a pundit. Wow, he's gone on to become a pundit in Spain. And the funny thing about it was Michael Robinson, because he was learning the language and making mistakes on how you use the Spanish language. The Spanish actually used to laugh at some of the mistakes he would make on air, but then they embraced him and loved him. And for someone with skin cancer to pass away at 61 is an absolute tragedy. My heart goes out to all his family and all his friends. But it's a huge loss, I think, to not only Spain, but to our country when a footballer dies so young.
Yeah, all credit to him to go into another country, you know, take on that post and trying to convince everybody that you are good at what you're doing. And I had one, I bumped into him once. You're not going to believe this, but he was way back in 1990, I think it was. I was actually on that show, Superstars, and he was in my team, and he was a really likeable lad. Super, very good socially as well, and we had a great time. And was he not one of the first players that get sold for quite a lot of money to a club, an English club? Michael Robertson. I'm trying to think, you know, how much it is. There was something significant about where he went.
I think you might be thinking about the boy Daly and Kevin Reeves. You know, the players that followed on from Trevor Francis and went for huge amounts of money. You might be right, Roughie. I don't know, but he certainly had a one glorious season at Liverpool. But isn't it amazing, Darren? Roughie always comes out with an absolute gem. I didn't know you were in Superstars, and I've been with you for quite a while. You never told me.
Yeah,
How did you get on?
I come back for holiday and I had to tick 8 of 10 events. And as you're going through the tick board, canoeing looked pretty easy. I nearly drowned after 10 minutes in that one. Shooting, the shooting gun was the gun that you raise up and point. And the boy said to me, you're not supposed to hit the middle of the O in your name. You're supposed to hit the target. So it was sort of a downhill after that. But I managed to beat who was the judo boy? No, sorry, it was the skier, the Scottish skier, Conrad Baltaski.
All right, yeah, a well-known
he was
name.
yes. The table tennis pulled me out a hole.
Yeah, who can forget Conrad Baltaski?
Yes, the skiers though.
I honestly thought you were going to say Brian Jackson, and I was going to be mightily impressed with you, Darren.
Yes, I was, yeah. But going back to Michael Robinson, Peter, did you see Graham Souness's interview this morning?
No, tell me.
He was best pals with him. I mean, Graham, it was very emotional. And he wanted to phone him. He actually wanted to. He had not spoken to him because Michael was a very emotional person, and he's not spoken to him over the last couple of weeks. And then he was going to phone him last night, and he just thought, no, I'll just leave him. And he actually said, and it's too late now. And he got very, very. But he told a great story about they were walking down. He was having lunch with Severiano Ballesteros one day, and they were walking down the street. And he went back to his office after having lunch with them and phoned Graham. He says, "We've just walked down the street with Sevi." He says, and 6 people stopped to ask me for an autograph, and only one to ask Sevi for his autograph. So he felt on top of the world. Graham was. I mean, it was very emotional this morning.
Good.
Yeah. Nice tribute to Michael Robinson. I think Graham would know him better than anyone from that wonderful Liverpool side. So a sad loss, I think, to his family and to his friends as well. And our heart goes out in our condolences to all connected to Michael Robinson. Now, coming up, and Roughie, well worth chatting just to see how Kevin Thompson decorates his house. I know you change the frames behind your head every now and then to keep everybody guessing, but I think Kevin's doing okay for himself. I caught up with him earlier to get a wee insight into his career now, and of course his career when he was playing. Well, I'm delighted to say joining us on the show is Rangers coach and former player Kevin Thompson. Kevin, you're looking comfortable. Are you feeling well? Is the family well?
I don't know about feeling comfortable and looking well, but certainly I'm surviving, Peter. It's obviously difficult times for everyone. Being obviously retired and football being a big part of my life and not having that, it's been difficult, but there's obviously bigger problems in life at the moment, so we'll have to respect that. I'm just trying to enjoy the family, enjoy my kids. Obviously don't get to see them too much with being a coach, 24/7 on the grass, but this time's been spent chasing them around the garden.
Yeah, I know I don't like to pester you too much. It's only been 10 years since you were at Borough the last time I interviewed you, but thankfully we've finally managed to get you back on. I even got Ferguson pestering you yesterday to get you back on with us. I've
Oh,
got
you
to
had lost
ask
my
you.
number.
Well, exactly. This is it. I couldn't believe it. I thought 3 or 4 times. What have I done to this guy, Thompson? I've got to ask you, though. I look back at it. There's a great photograph, and McManus keeps mentioning it on the programme, of you, Scott Brown, Gary O'Connor, Derek Riordan. When you look back at that fresh-faced youngster, was it the happy times? Did you sense there was something special with that group that everybody was talking about at Hibs?
I think it was probably the best time of your career. I think most people remember their breakthrough season, their debut. I've never had the fact that I was a boyhood fan of, obviously, the Highbees, so to make my debut for the team that I'd supported as a kid was extra special. To make it alongside, obviously we all made our debuts at different times and broke through at different times, but to make it alongside a lot of your pals that we knew no different. We'd obviously been in the youth team changing room, transferred into the first team changing room, so I think the era under Tony Mowbray, all due respect to Bobby Williamson, who gave a lot of us our opportunities, which we'll always be grateful for, but I think the football we played and when we evolved as young players under Tony Mowbray was a special time to be a Hibs player.
Yeah, you mentioned that because I always feel as if you get a special bunch of players, sometimes for a club of Hibs stature, you have to hope that you can get 2 years, maybe 3, before somebody comes and cherry picks the best players. Do you get the feeling that if you maybe stayed together a wee bit longer, you could have done something special?
I think so. I think not so much the wheels coming off the bus, but obviously Tony moved on to bigger and better things as well. Hibs fans will maybe not think that. Obviously moving to West Brom, I think they were in the Championship at the time when he first went, but they got to the Premier League. They got promoted because obviously he tried to sign me when he was at West Brom, and it was at the time when obviously I moved to Rangers in January, and Tony was in the Championship, albeit they were at the top of the Championship. So he was selling me the club along the lines of a Premier League club. I think we just probably. I think it's a harsh word to use to say that you outgrew the club as such, and a lot of boys were striving to move on to whether it be bigger salaries, bigger clubs or whatever, the bigger stage as such, because I think the grounding that we got and the love for the club will never differ for any of the lads. The opportunities that we were given at the Highbees was second to none. The path that was individual for us all was superb, but I think we lacked a wee bit of investment in the team. I think the budget that come along with having a young generation within the team meant that the wages were quite low. The demand within the players we were very comfortable, and just the love of playing football was the driver rather than the motivation for money. I think if the chairman had maybe invested in a wee bit more experience, you think he coming up against lads like Barry Ferguson, etc. at Rangers, top iconic player in this country over the last few decades, and I think we just need that wee bit of experience to be able to challenge the old firm. I don't think we were too far away, but there was certainly scope to try and help the young lads through.
Talking of special players, you and Scott Brown at the time, I can remember, you looked as if you were inseparable. You looked as if both of you could have ended up at Ibrox, but in the end, both of you took a different path.
Yeah, I suppose in hindsight, when you're so close to someone, you want the perfect world, don't you? You want to have the similar career path, and you want to play in the same team for as long as you possibly can. But these things are so many different factors that go into a transfer, the finances, etc. The teams both have to want you. I think we were lucky that Celtic and Rangers were both fighting over us, which was a humbling position to be in as a young Scottish player. Ultimately, even though me and Scotty are really tight, you make your own decision, and he felt that Celtic was the right decision for him. At the time, I felt Rangers was the right decision for me. So it's funny how you can be so tight, and then all of a sudden you become arch rivals on the pitch.
Yeah. Was there a particular game that sticks in your mind? You thought I might have to smash him.
I think that's probably the biggest compliment that you could give us both. That we went right. I think Old Firm games we used to lay off potentially texting each other or whatever, and we're obviously focused on doing our job for our individual clubs. But I still think he's Scotty getting sent off at Ibrox. I think we won 1-0 that day, and then we went away with Scotland, and we actually come in the car. I think I was the driver that day, me, Whitty, and Scotty, and he scored against Czech Republic on the Tuesday night. So it just shows the type of person that he is as well, to be able to deal with disappointment of the magnitude of getting beaten in Old Firm, especially at your arch rival stadium, and the flack that comes along with that of your own supporters, etc., to then have the mentality and the drive to then go and produce on the international stage, albeit it was a friendly against Czech Republic. I think on the Tuesday night we scored the winning goal. I think it was a 1-0 victory under Craig Levein. So I think the setting aside of the professionalism when we crossed that white line was second to none. But off the park, regardless of the rivalry between the two clubs, our friendship will never differ.
Yeah, nice to hear that from you. I knew the two of you were tight together. As far as you and your career at Rangers, how important do you think it was for you to get that goal against Celtic in the Derby match, just to settle you down?
I think probably the hardest thing for me individually was thinking that that being okay was good enough at Rangers, and I think I always quite a laid back character. People think that the tenacious little brat that runs about in the middle of the pitch, really aggressive, etc., is the type of person that I am off the pitch. It's the total opposite. I'm really calm. I'm quite reserved. I've got the fiery part within me. That comes with being the player that I was. But I think the goal against Celtic and that season alone was the making of me being a Rangers player within the fans' eyes. And a lot of people say you play for yourself when you get to clubs like this, but ultimately to be successful at Rangers, one, you need to lift trophies. Two, you need to establish yourself in the team, and three, there has to be an appease from the fans. The fans have to buy into you as a person, and probably to start with, I was just this wee blonde, fluffy-haired lad that run about in the middle of the pitch, and I think scoring goals and competing in Europe and playing and performing in the big games certainly wins over the faithful. And I think when you win the faithful over, there's always that wee bit leeway that when performances do dip or if you have an injury, etc., then it's funny old saying that when you're injured or you're out the team that people will appreciate you more. And I think that was potentially the case with me at Rangers.
Yeah, what was your favourite game? Is there a moment where you thought, this is what I've enjoyed, this is what I wanted to play football for?
I think the European nights I think every player's dream is winning titles and winning trophies, and look, everybody wants to be successful no matter what level you play at. I think Champions League nights, I still think when we obviously were allowed, when it was legal to have a coupon on a Tuesday and a Wednesday night, and you used to sit and watch the Champions League music, and the part that the camera used to veer across the players' faces just before the game, and then it would go to a wee interval advert or whatever, and then the game would obviously then be ready to kick off, and the noise, you used to always think, I want a bit of that. It seemed extra special, sitting on a sofa on a Tuesday or a Wednesday night when Champions League nights were on, and to then be part of that, I think was really special. But I think for me personally, the night in Florence was to be a 22-year-old boy playing in a UEFA Cup final that obviously Baz played in himself. In actual fact, when Baz missed the penalty, that was it for us. The coolness and the character that Barry was. He could keep the ball in a phone booth, and he could. He was a leader of men, Baz. He's as good as it gets really for grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck. So I think when Baz missed, we kind of thought that was our dream come to an end. But to celebrate for that 30 seconds in front of the fans in the far corner was something that will live with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, no surprise he says it was a great save by the goalkeeper, by the way. We've given him absolute belters for missing it.
Listen,
but
I know when you think about penalties and they miss, but to be fair to Baz, and I would be the first to normally stick up for him, but to be fair in this scenario, it was a well hit penalty, wasn't it? But you could argue any person that would say that a good hit penalty that gets saves are rubbish penalties, and Baz will probably be the same. He's deep down, he'll know that he would like to retake it and score, but the fact that he had the balls to stand up in a European Cup semi-final to lead the team by example just shows you the type of character that he was.
Yeah, absolutely. I always remind him I commentated on every game all the way through that. I always say to him, I've never seen a team get battered so much and still come out with 2 or 3 fantastic sucker punches. It was an unbelievable squad.
I just think that probably typifies it, Peter. It's the mindset, drive, the personality, the character within that group really testifies. Somebody like Walter Smith. I think when you look back at Walter Smith as a person and as the reigns that he had in different eras, obviously he's an iconic figure within the fans at Rangers. And I think when you start to shut your eyes and think of the dynamics of what a Walter Smith team looks like, that 2008 to 2010, 11 type team was really typified the manager to an unbelievable degree. The personality, the character, the will never to get beat, just the determination within the squad. Look, and added with quality, there was real quality players. I think when you go through the starting 11s through that period of time, there was a lot of good players talent wise, but the drive and determination within that squad was second to none, and that was catalyst for allowing us to be in these big games and be the underdog, but manage to come through them.
I've got to ask you now, you're a coach, you've got your Kevin Thompson Academy, you're coaching hopefully the new breed of stars coming through at Rangers as well. Stephen Davis has said in the last 24 hours he wants to be a manager, he wants to, manage Rangers one day, manage maybe the Northern Ireland international side. Where do your ambitions lie?
Well, if he wants to be the manager of Rangers, he'll need to wait behind me. Listen, Davo's he's a terrific player. He's someone that I think really, really highly. Still get to rub shoulders with him as such. Whenever I see him, I always go on my way to speak to him, and vice versa. So to continue to pick, the top players in the country's brain, not so much on a daily basis, but whenever we get opportunities to see the first team train, or whether they're in the indoor hall getting to do their training prep, etc., or doing some gym work or fitness work or whatever it may be. I think he's got the makings. I'd like to think he's a bit like myself. He's got that calm head. He's obviously got the knowledge within his own brain, footballing brain. I think for any player that's playing, the bit that you see within your own head is the bit that you need to try and portray to the players. People talk about pictures and the right stuff as a young coach, and I'm learning this myself, that because I was a player and I played at a certain level, it's up to me to try and see what's in my brain and pick parts of my brain to then present it to the players as best I possibly can so they can understand it. I think that's possibly the difficult thing for a player that's played at a top level, to try and understand that players that you manage or coach might not be the same level and the same thinking as yourself. So different scenarios, you need to break it down. It's one that I'm working on myself really hard. Aspirations, look, I'll sit here and quite openly say I want to be the manager one day. I've got a real drive and determination that I want to get to the top. I feel I've got the right character, the right personality, and if I fail, it certainly won't be through hard work.
Yeah, and with that in mind, bearing in mind that you grew up a Hibs fan, could you see yourself lock, stock and barrel, telling the wife, telling the kids, look, we're moving back to Edinburgh, I want to be the Hibs manager?
Listen, I think I don't think it's too sad to have a fairy tale path within your head. It would be amazing to be the manager of Hibs one day and then be successful there and leave a good legacy like what Tony Mowbray did, to then go on. Tony's path was always going to be down south. He managed to get to Middlesbrough, a club that was obviously close to his heart. Still obviously the manager of a big club at Blackburn, but I think if I had a perfect scenario, it would be great to be the Hibs manager and then be the Rangers manager, or be the Rangers manager and be successful and go on a different path, and then one day manage the Highbees. But that's just me being me, and I know football the way it is, cutthroat, and to have a perfect path is almost frowned upon, as if you expect certain things. I certainly don't expect, but if I had a perfect path, I managed to do it as a player, to play for obviously my boyhood club, to then get to a club that's still very close to my heart, obviously an employee. The appreciation that I get through in Glasgow is unbelievable, and I'm humbled to think that I'm highly sought after through there, which is nice. If that is my path, then I'm going to give them all to try and get there.
Yeah, well, we certainly wish you every success in that. A couple of points before you go. Up to the modern day, UEFA have said every league across Europe's got to the 25th of May to make up their mind on what they're going to do. The English Premier League want to play games behind closed doors because they want it all resolved. Do you think players would be up for playing behind closed doors, albeit, football is a spectator sport? Do you think that would be the ideal scenario for Scotland? Hang off for as long as possible and somehow finish this league?
I think the majority want it finished. The fixtures is, I think most camps that are involved in different. There's obviously clubs that it might not affect. It might affect their league standing and the financial part that comes off the back of that. But I think unless you're indirectly obviously affected by the season finishing and the standings being the way they are, I think there's always going to be unhappy camps. There's going to be people that are going to question different scenarios, but I think anyone involved in football would like to see the fixtures finished if we can. I know there's lots of different facets that go into that to make that happen, but if we could get it finished, it would be great. And then there's no excuse. There's nothing to come back to say that that person was hard done by or that person was hard done by. I think everybody wants the best for Scottish football. We want to see all the clubs survive. We want to see all the players looked after, all the staff that work in these great clubs looked after, and fingers crossed if we can get through this, the game can hopefully kick on and go to new heights.
And the final point, which has implications for your old mate Barry Ferguson, that there's suggestions of a league of 14, 14 and 14, which excludes Kelty Hearts and Brora Rangers. 14, 10, 10, 10 brings them up through the pyramid system. What would you like to see happen?
I think it's a difficult one. Obviously, look, I'm a big fan of Baz, obviously, not just as a person, as a coach, and being successful at Kelty. I wish him unbelievable luck. I know he'll know himself that you need that, and he's done a really good job at Kelty. He's always going to be questioned on the budget and the money that some of these players get. I think it's irrelevant. Nobody questions the Man City budget or the Man United budget or whatever. So it's I think it's just the nature of the beast within Scottish football. People like to look at the negatives. If there was a way of Baz and his team being successful and moving up through the pyramid system that was put in place, then it would be great if that could stay. The ins and outs of all these leagues, Peter, to be honest, without sounding too disrespectful to them, it's hard for me to keep up. I'm looking after 35 players at Rangers on the phone constantly, so my eye's probably a wee bit off the ball regarding the structure and what's right and what's wrong for certain individuals. But it would be great to see Kelty Hearts and Brora Rangers, if the success that they've managed to achieve through the course of the season, if they could be complemented within that, then that would be great.
Well, listen, it's been an absolute joy. Let's not make it 10 years till the next interview, because I think by then there might be a few grey hairs sneaking into the side of your head.
I've already got them.
Kevin, listen, it's been an absolute joy to talk to you. I hope you've got great success at Rangers and you do actually follow the path that you want to. Thanks for joining us. Much appreciated.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
Good man. Liked him. Thought he was a great player, Roughie. Just so unlucky. I mean, would you believe he broke his leg when he was on a running machine at Middlesbrough? He fell off the running machine and broke his leg. I mean, he was just so unlucky. I thought he was a good player.
Yeah, I thought he was, and you touched on it when him and Bruni were at Hibs, and I think it was Darren that said, they thought Kevin had more of a footballing brain in him, and when Bruni had everything that went with, his style of play. Just remind me, Peter, did both of them go for 4 million?
I think Kevin went for just under it. I think it might have been just over 2 million. Yeah. But I know that both of them were actually sought after by Rangers, and then Celtic nipped in and got Scott Brown in the summer, and the rest, as they say, is history. But I think the two of them are good friends, which is, listen, that's the way the world goes. You've got great pals, the Rangers, Celtic, Hearts, Hibs fans. If you're a sensible person, Roughie, football's only a game.
Peter, see when you were talking. You were talking to Kevin about the band that came through, Gary O'Connors and Derek Riordan and Kevin and Scott and all that. Obviously, we had that Dundee United with Nadir, Stuart, Gaz, Goldie, Andy, and they do have to move on. It's no disrespect. They outgrow. They did so well for their clubs. They did at Hibs. The boys did at Dundee United, that they outgrow the club. They need to go to that next level to go and prove themselves, and a lot of them have. Yeah, but if you're Jim McLean, you get them on a 9-year deal, Roughie, and then you can get them into a UEFA Cup final. Is that fair?
Yeah. With a 3-year option.
Yes, absolutely. Listen, apologies to anyone who was hoping we would have a quiz question today. We didn't get time for it because basically there was that many statements coming out. We've offered you a broad view of how we see it being played out on a regular basis. I hope you enjoyed the Kevin Thompson interview there. It was great to chat to Kevin. He's a good lad, and I wish him every success. And again, our thoughts go out to Michael Robinson, who sadly passed away at the age of 61, which is way too young, to be perfectly honest with you. As ever, if you enjoy the content on Facebook, please do like, share and follow us on Facebook. And if you're on YouTube as well, then all you have to do is subscribe to our channel. And of course, on the Sky Network, if you go into Sky and go down to your apps, click on it, you'll see YouTube. You can click on YouTube and then put in PLZ Soccer and you get the show on your telly. It's a great picture and you can watch the programme on your telly as well. And if you want to join us live Monday to Friday, it's 4 o'clock. I always like to say, because I think it's only right and proper, Roughie, we like to put a call out to the thoroughly decent football fans who love their club and are passionate about their club. Sometimes, if you to read the messages, I must get you to link into the messages, Roughie, just to see that there are people there who clearly don't walk in our world. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, no, I can't do it during the show, but I can do it after the show. I can go into PLZ Live and see the comments while I'm just before having my tea to see all the ones that you've brought out there.
Absolutely. Roughie, I would advise you to do it just to see what we call in the west of Scotland the dafties, all battering each other, whereas the sensible people just offer some great information and insight into their own club. If you are one of the sensible people, thank you for sharing your time with us. If you're one of the dafties, remember, Club TV is waiting for you. From Darren, from Roughie, from myself, Peter Martin, stay safe, have a great night. Good night.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.